We'll see. Yes, that's good enough.
Should I hit click it?
Yeah, no. Oh, you can see. Yeah, let's see what that one says. Hello, my friends. I has a period after it. I think because of that Esquire.
Oh.
Coming live from Yorba Linda, California. We're here in the Fox News broadcasting because we have a printer behind us. No, we're not. We're at home. And wanted to come on and talk about how the weak are being controlled by the wicked. And the reason this came to me, Hedia,
yes,
because I sprung this on her and said, hey, I want to do a live and talk about this. We watched a little bit of a movie about ISIS yesterday. Dan Bongino has me fired up. If you've not seen today's Dan Bongino show, find it. I can't see how they're going to leave it on YouTube very long. It was still there a couple hours after he posted it, but what he talked about, I'm sure it won't last. So if you can't find it there, go to Rumble. Find a Dan Bongino show on Rumble and watch it today.
June
a
7th.
lot of info about Wuhan. So his show got me all fired up. Some stuff happening in the news, and you got what's her name, the vice nitwit. She's in Guatemala, and she goes from the airport to the palace, talks to a few people, and apparently she's going to go to Mexico. Sure, that's going to
on vacation.
Yeah. Yeah, seemingly on vacation.
Have some margaritas.
And people go, oh, look at, she's going to Guatemala. She's going to solve the problem from the Northern Triangle or whatever they call it down there. And she wants to seek out the root problems with why there's an influx of people coming across the border.
She was afraid to go to the border.
Yeah. The problem is the border's open.
Yeah.
That's the problem. And I could just go on. There's just so many things. If we go all the way back to President Trump during his 4 years, just attacks on him and lies were spread, and lies that even some Republicans started to believe. And then they found out that they weren't true, about the Steele dossier and about the PP hoax and about him being a Russian spy and Ukraine. And I can go on with all this stuff. So my question to you, Hedia, being a counterterrorism expert, I've had 21 years of law enforcement and police department. Hedia has worked for the FBI as a under contract, and under 5 different presidents as a counterterrorism expert. Former Muslim,
yes,
in a sect that wasn't involved in terrorism.
Right,
they didn't like the terrorism. Right, they wanted to get to the terrorists. So with that background, as I began to think about, there's half of our country, seemingly, I don't think it's that much.
A lot of people.
A lot of people. Yeah, a lot of people have been put through all this. And so if we were to take the last 5 years, and I would say longer than that, maybe last 6 years in particular, with everything that's happened, the lies that have been proven a lie, we're still here. We still have the same people listening to the next lie and believing it about Wuhan, about whatever. And yesterday we were driving in the car and I was saying, you know what, we really have to look at this as if it's the America and Americans versus Democrats. They've literally, in my mind, become the enemy. And I know people say, well, it's just liberals, it's just the left. And I go, they're all the same. It's just Antifa. They're all the same. BLM, they're all the same. It doesn't matter in my mind. And you're looking at me like, you're going a little strong, Andy. But if you take all those people, all the people in those areas, they want to defund the police. They want to open border.
But that's why, I mean, I'll tell you, and not because I have sympathy for Islam in general. I'm just I like humans in general. But we try to avoid clumping a very large sector into a sector we were trying to combat, because then you create an enemy out of 1 billion people. So the more narrow you define the enemy, the easier it is to isolate them from. Otherwise, you have radicalization of the middle, and we don't want to further push.
Oh.
So
I'll narrow it down. Democrats.
Because they're not. I mean,
Really?
My parents are Democrats, but do you think they want to defund the police? Remember, there's a whole sector.
I don't think they're really Democrats. I think he's a conservative capitalist.
Well, but there's people like that who still vote for Biden, who still fund the Democrat Party, meaning they are not aware of what the radical left is doing.
Okay. And if we were to look at the Republicans,
Because we're not all the same, right? We're constantly trying to distinguish.
We have rhinos.
Yeah.
So you have Democrats, and there's a few outlying people that we call dinos.
Right.
Right.
And then we call the rest of us like the Patriot Party or MAGA.
So your parents are dinos.
Well, that's my point, is that if we can distinguish between rhinos and MAGA, then we should call them the radical left as opposed to the
radical Democrats.
Yeah.
Okay, we will come to that agreement. Okay, but they are the worst. I mean, they are
poisoning the well.
Yes, and we have to even separate the media, I think, to a certain extent, and then the politicians. So we have three things working in here. Why I thought about you is because I just want to think of Johnny and Mary that have an apartment in Tustin, California, who are only listening to CNN, only listening to MSDNC and all these other people, and maybe they're not. Maybe some people, there's people that I know that don't watch any of those things, but they still hate Trump and hate America because their friend had told them that Trump had said something, or that open or closed borders is racist, and then they just go on for the rest of their life. They saw somebody on TikTok, and now they've become radicalized. So now my question to you as a counterterrorism expert, have dealt with the recruitment of young Americans, mostly, I would think,
and
Europeans into ISIS. And what is it with the people that are being recruited? What is it about them that make them susceptible to being recruited and to be brainwashed into something that's completely against what I would say human nature? Killing of others, defunding police, being for the criminals, letting them out of prison. That's not normal thinking, I don't think.
No. So it's fascinating that you come up with this comparison because the radical left is now using the same models that I and other experts had decided upon for radicalization against us. So they're calling us the extremists. They're calling us the violent extremists. So let's turn it on its head and apply the same model to them. So what we say is that people get motivated by ideologically based groups, which the radical left is. It's based on an ideology. It's wokeism.
Yep.
Because of these 5 clusters of weaknesses that makes them susceptible. So there are psychological factors, social emotional factors, maladjustment, other kind of social causes, political grievances, the ideology, and economic factors. So based on a person's weaknesses in those areas, they will gravitate towards ideologically based violent groups or ideologically based grievance groups.
Does a person need to have all 5 of those things going on? No.
So it has never been, the expert community has never been able to prove the negative, like the reason that somebody does not become a terrorist, but there are certain determined risk factors which include those clusters. So what a lot of us were doing is we were trying to come up with scales and using evidence-based scales from other previous studies to say, let's apply these scales. And based on where somebody ranks, we would say, this person is potentially dangerous. Using violence to accomplish their social political goals, like Antifa. So I am confident that the FBI and other experts are using those same tools that we developed for the ISIS recruitment as people are using against what they consider to be the far right and what we would now say applies to the radical left. Because the models should be usable across the board for people who radicalize, who don't follow social norms. I mean, because everybody, when they were watching the ISIS recruitment, and I mean, I have videos of this guy, like he was literally this like normal teenager out in Atlanta, and he's on the video, he's about to become a suicide bomber. So they show at the end that he actually kills himself. And he's making a video saying that his life was a mess. He came to live with the Mujahideen. They loved him. They took care of him. He missed his mom. And that he missed his mom and he was crying to her. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to hurt you. He was a drug addict. And he went there thinking that he was going to die for a noble cause.
Some of what you just said reminds me of what we would see now I'm going to say
Gangs?
Democrat politicians wanting to put in these policies of giving these, the lower income people free stuff all the time, right? Let's give them more checks. They want to push through another stimulus bill. They want to give more money to people, which you were saying about, giving them stuff and loving them and caring for them. What I think the Democrats are doing is saying our government, this Democrat government loves you. We love you so much. We are going to take care of you. We're going to give you social platform or social programs. We are going to give you EBT cards so you can go out and buy stuff as much as you want. You need another EBT?
Yes,
EBT?
and we give you a cause to fight for.
And we give you a cause to fight for. It's the same methods.
Yes.
Wow.
Because extremists recruit with the same patterns.
Right.
We used models that were effective in preventing gang violence because gangs do the same thing.
So then now let's go with crime. So then you can say, look at these Republicans. They want to put you in jail. They want to arrest you. They're out there, again,
they're bigots. They're racist. They're homophobic.
They're killing 1,000 to 10,000 male blacks every year, which is 10, not even close. Yeah. They did a poll. I don't know if you've seen this poll or heard about it, but they did a poll with Democrats, and there was a large portion of them. I want to say 30%, somewhere in that area, maybe 40%, believed that 1,000 to 10,000 blacks are being killed annually.
It's horrible.
Just hunted down by law enforcement and killed. They truly believe that. There's no question in their mind.
Well, and
based on what they're being told in the media, based on what they're being told by politicians.
And you saw when you were watching this little clip of the movie's called Profile. It's really very well done. Where the girl's on the call, she's on a Skype call with the guy who's saying, it's wonderful, come out here. We're fighting against the infidels. They're killing babies. And then she hears gunfire and shooting and things blowing up in the background, and it doesn't make her run.
Yes.
So it's the same thing. Like, people watched Antifa and continue to burn cities down. In Oregon, is it Oregon where Chomp is?
Seattle.
Yeah. And people still support it.
Yeah.
And you're like, how do you support anarchy? Well, because they have this tendency towards extremism because of this cluster of whether it's grievances or social emotional disorders or poverty, psychological issues that motivates them to accept those kinds of beliefs.
Yeah. Hey, if you're watching this, and Amy, thank you for commenting. I'll tell you what the PP hoax is in 1 second. But if you're watching this, oops, sorry, one more second. Go farther down. I have too many graphics here. Oops. What was that? Make sure and comment. When you comment, what happens is it causes the YouTubes and the Facebooks and the Twitches to push it out so other people can see it. So please comment. Just let us know what you're watching from. What did you think about what we're talking about? If you think that we're full of hot air, see how good I am. I'm getting so much better. I'm healing. I'm not sure I could do that with the explanation what the PP hoax is, but one more. What Amy's talking about here, what's the PP hoax? And what it was, there was a story that somebody had a video of President Trump who was nude and had Russian prostitutes urinating on him. And so P-E-E.
Yes,
yeah.
Literally.
Yeah.
PP.
Yeah. So it's PP. The videotape never existed. But it was obviously it ran its cycle through the news and caused some distraction, I'm sure, of something the Democrats were doing, and got them off the front page, got him onto the front page. And it was just another one of those things that they use constantly to break you. It's just constant bombardment of he's evil, he's a Russian spy, he hates his country, he's racist. And whenever you ask any of those people, which I have, I remember being at a July 4th event in 2020 where I was sitting at a table with a bunch of people, and then one of these people that were there began, railing against President Trump. And I tried to be quiet for a while. This is before I knew Hedia, who is I'm learning, but come on in. And I said, okay, so you had a whole bunch of stuff to say, which was for probably a good 15, 20 minutes of stuff about staying things. I said, do you know that happened? Can you show me where that happened? Well, I go, have you ever read that? Have you ever seen it? Have you ever seen a video of that happening? No, a friend of mine told me. Yeah. And I said, all right, but maybe you could go on your phone and you can do a search and find me the video where he said those things. And she goes, well, I don't think, why do I have to do that? I believe my friend. And I said, really? I said, don't you want to do the research? Don't you? I mean, if you want to hate somebody that bad, because her vitriol was so strong.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just nastiness. Like, he's a mother. And I mean, she was using the words that I would never use and saying very strong things. And so when you feel that way about somebody, wouldn't you want to see it for yourself or hear it for yourself? I don't need to. Eventually, she powered down because I said, did you know that this is what he did? Do you know this is his policy? I talked about school choice and a bunch of other policies he brought in there. I don't want to waste our time going through all those. But there were a number of things that she didn't know. She goes, well, I never heard of that. I said, your friend that told you he was a racist never told you about, the school choice and how that benefited the Black communities. He never talked about that. No, I never. What is that? So that I had to explain it to her. And I talked about a number of other policies. And so when we're watching, this ISIS movie, and when we're looking back at, some of the people that you probably, were a part of investigating, that no matter what you did to show them that it's not true, they wouldn't believe you. You could say, this is a what do they call these things?
Coaster.
They believe that this is a weapon, like a throwing star. I go, no, this is not a throwing star. It's a cup holder. Watch, I got a cup and I'll put it on the thing. And it's a cup holder. It keeps from leaving us on the table. I'll show you how it works. Yeah. And when it flies, it doesn't fly very well. And it has no sharp edges. It doesn't hurt. It's a cup holder. They go, no, it's a throwing star. And you could do everything you could to tell them. 2 + 2 = 4. No, it doesn't. It equals 5. No, it equals 4. Let me show you four things. You count them, and it's 4. I mean, you could just go on and on with all these things, and they still will not change. It won't change their mind. It won't alter their thinking. It won't take away the anger that they feel. It's because it's just done over and over and over and over again. Do you have any ideas on how they get the media to follow suit? Are the reporters, the journalists? Are they just the same as the victims in this thing, or how are they useful idiots? How are they being used to stir the narrative?
Well, if you're familiar with how newsrooms operate, it's sensationalism. Mm-hmm. It's something exciting or sensational is what sells. So when they go to their editors to do the story, or the editors send the request down, they're looking for particular types of stories, and so the boss won't print if it doesn't have the line that the boss is looking to put mm-hmm. forward. So are the tech companies, the media giants, are they in cahoots? Yes, for the most part. So it comes from a small group of people and it trickles down because nobody wants to lose their job. The news station says, report like this, and they report like this. And it sells and it becomes popular and they do it more. Or even if it doesn't sell, but their boss says, it's just like if you work in a fast food place and he says, put Swiss cheese instead of American. You're like, but American tastes better. I don't care. I said, put Swiss cheese. You put Swiss cheese because that's what the boss said, It's just, you're forced to comply.
But it's so odd because when you're a journalist, when you go into this job.
No, it used to be.
Yeah, your thought, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to get down to the story. I'm going to find out what the truth is and I'm going to report on it. And you have, let's talk about the thing, right? The thing that you get and you don't feel too good. The thing and where it came from. It came from a bat or it came from the lab, which could be a bioweapon. It could be, and more stuff's coming out to say that this story is true. All this information that they're getting now is readily available back to us in 2019, 2020.
Right, but supporting a policy of the Orange Man would get you.
But as a journalist, though, what's the better story? Oh, it's from a bat, but so let's just forget about it.
You care about your job.
Oh, dale.
I mean, what industry the employee doesn't care about their job?
Oh my gosh! You know what? I had a flashback.
Right? I was just going to tell you. You know what it's like to fight authority. It doesn't end well.
No,
it doesn't. And I mean,
Yeah.
even, and I had the same thing with my boss at the FBI is that, it, especially for the FBI, it's a paramilitary. We used to call it a paramilitary organization. It's based on a command structure, and you constantly try to buck that system. The system will throw you out.
Okay.
And look at what happened to Trump. He's the best example of the system throwing you out.
Yeah. Well, you have, yeah. Well, I mean, but still, we still have the journalists who've now gone so far as, and now they've bought into it all. Now they report on it, and and it appears to me that they truly believe it, what they're saying, or they need to do this for the greater good, perhaps. I mean, if I go back to my days as a police officer, before I was even in Canine, I was a young cop, and I wanted to catch as many bad guys as possible. And they put us out for whatever. I'm not sure how I ended up out in the canyon, but I ended up in the canyon. The canyon being high dollar homes. Wealthy people mostly lived in the canyon. There were a few little tiny areas where there was some drug activity. One was called Temple Street. Another one was down actually in Placentia, but they were bleeding into Anaheim. And then we had another area where a bunch of Samoans lived, and they were doing a lot of drugs, meth and coke and that kind of stuff. And they're very small areas. Well, downtown Anaheim, full of narcotics activity, prostitution, robberies, all kinds of stuff. South Anaheim near Disneyland, totally riddled with all kinds of crime. Well, we were young cops that were all kind of put together, former LAPD officer, another guy from Fountain Valley Police Department, and me, and then another guy that I went to the academy with. And we go, you know what? We're out in the canyon, but we don't care. We're going to make some arrests. And so we went to this little tiny area of Temple Street, this other area, and we were hooking people up like crazy. And so
you got in trouble now?
So the monthly stats came out, and we here in this little tiny Sector 5 had arrested more people than Sector 4 and Sector 3 put together. And the sergeants in those areas said, "Hey, what are you guys doing out there in the canyon? What are you doing?" And they went to the lieutenant. The lieutenant told us to back off and stop arresting so many people. You're making the other sectors look bad. And we said, "What? We're arresting people. You're telling us not to arrest?" I mean, they were good arrests. We call them pinches back in the day. They were good pinches. We were picking people off like crazy. Guns, we were stopping robberies, and the lieutenant.
Don't buck the system.
Oh no, we were in big trouble. And they said, "You don't slow it down, we will." And we were young. I mean, we were early on in our career.
And how many people said that?
Oh my gosh!
Said that to President Trump.
Yeah.
Stop it. Don't try to.
Oh my gosh! System. Why you just brought this whole memory back to me?
That's your example.
But the sergeants got together with the lieutenant, and they said, you got to slow those guys down. And our sergeant that worked for us, he was friends with these other guys. So that's where the real pressure came. They put pressure on him to slow us down. So he called us all together and said, "You guys need to slow it down. You guys are arresting too many people." And ugly in the city of Anaheim. Oh, I'm trying to see, because Carol's from Anaheim too. That was, So what we ended up doing, remember I told you we used to get fishing poles. There's a lake out there in Anaheim Hills Canyon. There's a lake out there. We got fishing poles, and we had barbecues, and we went fishing for the rest of our time there. And everybody was much happier with us fishing and didn't care. Is that crazy?
Sounds like government.
Oh. So I can say that now. I think I've held that in for so many years, I almost forgot about it. That was one of the strangest times in my career that they actually told us to stop arresting people. But
are we cops?
We're police. So I see what you're saying. You just brought me back to a period of time where sometimes it's hard to buck the system. So back to the victims. I want to call them the victims. I'm willing to say that some of these people are just, again, I call them useful idiots or what have you. These people that have been indoctrinated into believing our country is evil and racist, all kind of stuff. And have been sucked into this idea that America is a horrible place. Did you ever come up with a solution for that? Or was it just that you wanted to be aware of it so you knew who to watch and follow? Or was there a way of intervening before that happened?
Was the whole point, was the intervention before they became dangerous. So you had to apply programs once you knew the clusters and in which areas they were most vulnerable, you applied solutions to those areas. So if it was their social conditioning, was it their economic? That's why they throw money at the problem. That's why the radical left throws money at the problem, because you're like, okay, they have an economic problem. But we used to always say you can't solve one cluster and think the person's going to be solved. or the person's going to be de-radicalized. If you don't address the ideology, that was the biggest fight we had. If you don't address the ideology, this person is going to constantly keep radicalizing because they have this grievance attached to an ideology, and that's a very lethal combination. And so at the root of what they're motivated by is the ideology, which is wokeism or this critical race theory. And so if we don't combat, taking us back to you and I and our stand for Christ, is that the world needs Jesus. Because if you can't get people back to denounce the ideology, then you're constantly going to have new recruits.
To come to a moral.
And there is no other moral compass. The world is binary. There is good and there is evil. If people do not come back to the Christ as the moral guideline, then morality becomes relative.
Wow.
And everybody's morality will change based on who they are, their background, their culture, their religion, whatever it is. So unless you have a God-based standard, we're going to constantly be coming up against a corrupt ideology. And at the root, man is wicked.
So there's no surprise that in California that Gavin Newsom, one of his main things was shutting down churches.
Of course, you have to, because they're the only ones that are not afraid of what man can do to you. Do not be afraid of what man can do.
Wow. I mean, when you're talking about throwing money at stuff, I think about why President Trump's most of his solutions work so well, because it was the exact opposite of what our government normally does.
Yes,
normally
that's
does.
what they wanted to do.
It's like, hated him. You talk about Mexico, for instance. Like, all right, we need your help at the border. So this is how it's going to go. I'm going to not give you money until you do that. Right? I mean, it was the exact opposite. What Kamala Harris is going down to Guatemala. Okay, we're going to give you millions of dollars to fix your problem. No, millions of dollars not going to fix the problem. How about not giving them the money until they fix the problem?
That's what foreign diplomacy was. When in his speech in North Carolina, he just laid it up because he has a business perspective. The business perspective is, what is my goal? What's my problem? That's how I apply a solution. But that's not the way diplomacy works. The U.S. foreign diplomacy sector, whether it goes across from the State Department on down through the defense, through Congress, is based on certain diplomatic principles of peace through, negotiation. We have to talk it out. We have to appease them. We have and things that have historically never worked, but yet we continue to do them. It's very odd.
Right.
It's very odd. And when you try to go in the system and apply a completely different methodology and not hire the usual people and not follow the usual protocol, the whole system revolts against you and will stop you at every turn.
Wow. It's amazing how quickly people change when you stop funding them and you put tariffs on them. And we saw it. We saw it at work.
Yeah.
I mean,
Trump's like, very simple. That's what he was telling them at the UN, WHO. He's like, listen, you guys are going to carry, he went to Germany. You guys need to carry your fair share. Yeah. Why am I still paying for this stuff?
Yeah.
South Korea. Why do I pay millions of dollars? You guys pay nothing.
Oh my God. It is really, you remind me of Iran. Obama gives them $1 billion in the shadows of the night in cash that they eventually use that cash to pay for terrorists to kill Americans.
Because that's what they do.
Yeah. Trump comes in and says, no more money to any of you idiots. It's done. And then the first thing Biden does is undo those policies to give them back their money. And I mean, we truly have put into place. We basically put the enemy in the White House. If that's my opinion. You can't just picture. I mean, because he's friends to China. Oh, we're not talking bad about China.
And why is he friends with China though? Well, economic motives.
Yes, of course.
I don't think he would naturally.
Same thing as the NBA. Why is the NBA friends with China? Yeah, economic motives. Oh, Eddie, this did not make me feel better. It was supposed to make me feel better. Was it? I was trying to help Amy too. Amy doesn't feel that great. She says, depressing. Yeah, what was the other thing she had to say? She was just so had it. I'm glad you're on right now because I'm beyond frustrated with the world today. There is a small part of me, although this has happened very quickly. What are we in? 6 months? I feel like it's about time for another election. Oh, but it doesn't. I mean, but it's not even.
Yeah, but 2022 will be fun. It's coming up.
Yeah, that election will be fun. But God, we're gonna give this guy another year and a half.
Way more than that.
I mean, he's done this much damage in 6 months.
Yeah.
and taking credit for, he only takes credit for the really, the things that came out of the last administration. He takes credit for the good things. And then
those are going to peter out soon.
But then anything that went wrong, he blames it on the last administration.
Impossible.
Anything good? Oh yeah, I'm the one with the vaccine. I made sure that everybody could have it.
He's only going to be able to ride that train for a little bit longer. Now, as the economy continues to tank, our diplomacy strategies fail, we'll inevitably end up starting more wars. There's going to be hell to pay.
We have to do something about the weak-minded. I just don't understand them. I don't understand. You would think that at some point they would get tired of being lied to. I think that's the most frustrated thing for me, and probably Amy too, and Carol, is that you just, these lies continue to be debunked, and that we keep on talking. We've been talking about
that. They don't see that because their news sources don't provide those. So remember, we're each in echo chambers.
Mm-hmm.
We hear the evidence that supports our party. They hear the evidence that supports their party.
The lie.
So but that's all they're fed. Yeah. And so they don't ever leave. Neither side is leaving their echo chamber.
Well,
we don't listen to their stuff.
Yeah, I do.
Do you?
Yeah. That's how I know how bad it is.
I mean, but
yeah, Fox plays it all the time, and then you have
the snippets.
Yeah.
But if you were to hear the longer or read the longer news stories that they read, it's filled with.
Yeah, New York Times I read because I know that's where most of it's coming from.
Yeah, I mean but the evidence that they're provided is compelling. It's not compelling to you because you hear the other side of the news story, but they're not hearing the other side of the news story.
Well, they should.
They should. Everybody should. Absolutely. I mean, it's ridiculous to want to consciously.
No, I do venture over to the other side just to see what's going on, but you don't get past. They're still talking about Trump. Like, it's the craziest thing. They're not talking. One of the things that they're completely ignoring. They ignore the border. There's not a story about the border. Anytime I've gone to CNN or MSNBC, it's the stuff happened. They're finally starting to talk a little bit about what's happening with one.
Same with Hunter Biden. They just talked about it.
Maybe just a smidge.
Yeah.
But they're not talking about that either. Anytime anything new comes out, they don't talk about anything. So they're simply but they're still definitely focused on Trump. Everything still is his fault.
So we used to always say about the Middle East that the Palestinian crisis was the opiate of the masses. And Trump is useful to the radical left that way. He's the opiate of the masses. Just keep talking about Trump and the audience is drunk with rage, anger, frustration. Just keep feeding them that Trump juice and everybody just gets crazy. It diverts people's attention from what's really going on. If you have to really talk about the economy, the rising crime rates, the rising inflation, the gas prices, if they were to talk about those things that are actually happening in this country, people may change their mind. Again, at the root is the ideology. If you don't address the political grievances and the ideology, the people will continue to radicalize.
So can you read this one?
Fauci, Amy says, Fauci's emails show indisputable proof that he lied and lied about everything, but he's still on morning shows and they're gushing over him like he's a rock star. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, the ones that they were talked about, the timelines, when you see the dates that they came out, and then what he would say on the mic would be two different things. Or he would say that, well, I didn't know anything about, one thing or the other. And then there's an email saying the person telling him about the thing. That
and remember, the other side is not seeing that juxtaposition. It's only on the conservative media do they give you that juxtaposition so that you hear, he said this. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, that's what makes Dan's show so great today is he goes over a bunch of those timelines and say, do you see what he said? We're playing the video of him speaking on the camera, on the mic there at the White House. And then this is when he got this email. The email said, we're concerned about what's happening in Wuhan and what is possibly escaped from the lab. And then he goes on and then says, oh, we think it came for a bat. And there's a story coming out, there's a study coming out by some very good virologists. I think that's what they're called. I forget what they call the virus people, coming out from some very, smart
we
people.
do that about everything. I got to tell you, even in Republican conservative administrations, there could be multiple theories about something that concerns us. Like during the time of terrorism, we constantly avoided saying Muslims, even though we were dealing with a massive ISIS problem. We talked about violent extremism, which ended up being code for Islamic extremism. But everyone's like, we can't upset the Muslims, and would talk about, Tamil tigers or other kinds of like obscure sources of violence. And we'd say, well, there's all kinds. It's like they were so disproportionately less than what we were dealing with ISIS, but for the media's sake and for public discourse, we had to say it was everybody.
I get it. I'm going to ask you one more question. You may not be able to answer this question.
Okay.
Do you feel that there's a distinct difference between the upper echelons of the FBI and the men and women that are on the ground, like the?
Oh, absolutely.
And
absolutely. I mean, it was. I mean, we see now what happened with Andy McCabe and Lisa Page, and it was.
Comey.
Yeah, I mean, what they got away with was
criminal.
Yeah. I mean, I told you, based on the standards at the FBI, the amount of polygraphs you go through, lifestyle polys, the slightest indiscretion, cheating on a spouse, excessive drinking, money problems, like overusing your credit cards, would call you into a polygraph and can get you kicked out. I said, but this lady was sleeping with her colleague, and one of them was married. I mean, it was an adulterous relationship while they were both at the FBI, using FBI phones to text each other, and neither of them ever got in trouble. But somebody down, 3 floors down from them would have lost his job doing that.
Wow.
It's
almost 2 different departments.
Yeah. I mean, but everything in the government's that way.
FBI A and FBI B.
Everything in the government's like that.
Carol said her feed stopped with a warning from the tech gods. I am warned. From our feed, or something else that was going on. Something we were talking about. I don't doubt it. I mean, I'm being, I'm on the verge.
My friends at His Glory said they were removed from YouTube for Flynn's interview.
Oh, really?
Flynn's. Yeah. They got 2 warnings, suspended, and now they were removed. But luckily for them, they had downloaded all their content off of YouTube first. Yep.
Important thing to do.
Yep.
Mine. Oh, when I said Dr. Fauci, your Dr. Fauci comments. All right. Well, thank you. I know you weren't quite sure how this was going to, was it okay?
Absolutely. Everything with this is always okay.
Here goes. So how are we doing this? I was just so engrossed in so many things that are happening today. And then,
despite the fact that we're late to cook dinner.
We're late to cook dinner. It's all right. Both your daughter and my daughter, they stay up until tomorrow.
Yes.
So
vampires.
Yeah, we don't.
No.
Yeah, we don't. All right. I don't know if I'm going to have another Andy Falco show before Wednesday, but I would appreciate your prayers as just going through a little bit of surgery. And we are looking forward to the next time I broadcast. I won't have any more cancer.
Amen.
That'd be awesome, right?
Amen.
So let's get that done. We will have a devotional tomorrow. And so we'll probably talk a little bit more about it then. But just kind of want to let you guys know that on Wednesday, that's what will be happening. So I would appreciate your positive thoughts and prayers on Wednesday morning. That would be awesome.
Thank you.
Thrown back into Facebook jail. It's possible. It's possible. Dang it. I didn't talk about that other guy. I didn't talk about the guy in his
the
email.
boss.
With the guy. Yeah, I didn't talk about that. Thank you so much, Amy. Appreciate it. Carol, thank you for the prayers. And those friends of mine that I'm gaining lots of friends on Twitter. I mean, every time I look, I got 5 or 6 more, and I think I'm already up like 200 from yesterday.
Nice.
So if any of you are watching my new friends on Twitter, glad to meet you. Please leave a comment on Twitter. Also, that'd be awesome. I've not used Twitter at all. I have the presence, but I only look at the things that are going on. And for the first time, I've actually started tweeting.
Oh,
I know, it's so weird. It's been around for so long.
Watch out. It sucks. It's so brutal.
Oh my gosh, the friends that I used to have, I had some really close friends that I've done some really good important projects with. Wrote a scientific paper. I'm a co-author on a what do they call it when it's reviewed? A reviewed scientific paper.
Peer review.
A peer-reviewed scientific paper. I'm a co-author with these people. Oh my gosh, they hate my guts now. We were good friends. Oh, you should have seen some of the stuff they wrote about me. Oh, it was amazing. I loved it. It was good. All right, my friends, we love you. We got to cook dinner, but thank you for the discussion, Hidya. I just wanted
Always
to
a
talk about
pleasure.
that. If we're going to work
Great.
these.
You really enlightened me too by asking the question.
Oh, very cool. Good. We're good for each other.
Always.
God is amazing.
God is good.
He knew we belonged together. All right.
We love you guys.
Gravy. All right, that's it. We'll talk later. Take care.
Bye.
God bless.